With the exception of CBS, every major media outlet in the United States shares at least one board member with at least one pharmaceutical company. Let me put that into perspective. These board members wake up, they go to a meeting at Merck or Pfizer, then they have their driver take them over to a meeting with NBC to decide what kind of programming that network is going to air. And for those board members who aren't pulling double duty with a media conglomerate in a big drug company, they still understand that they can't be mean to Big Pharma because Big Pharma pays their bills. Drug companies spend about $5 billion a year on advertising with these media outlets. So when you have a case against Pfizer or Merck or Eli Lilly or any of the other major pharmaceutical companies, do you think those board members are going to let you get on the air and tell a story that's bad about what they do? Or are you naive enough to believe that they really don't interfere with the day-to-day operation? It can take anywhere from 3 days to a full week before the media reports on a drug or a medical device recall, if they report on it at all. In the case of Invokana, for example, it took 32 days before media outlets reported about an FDA warning about the product creating too much acid in the bloodstream. The FDA began warning about the dangers of Cook IVC filters as early as 2010, and then it took 5 years before the media started paying any attention to that. And it's worth pointing out that these instances, it's only been through non-corporate, independent media outlets that these stories are told at all. You can replace IVC or Invokana with any of the other drug or any product, and the story's always going to be the same, whether it's Strike or hip implants, or C8 killing somebody, or Vioxx killing somebody, or Roundup causing cancer, Xarelto or Essure talcum powder. The corporate media doesn't care about these stories because they either share board members with these companies or because they want those companies to keep throwing huge advertising dollars their way. These gigantic media corporations aren't going to do a thing to threaten their relationship with their biggest advertisers. And one way or another, they're always going to express the ideological views of their owners, their corporate owners. Fortunately, an increasing number of Americans are starting to wake up and realize that the mainstream media should not be trusted. In recent years, we've seen the alternative media experience rapid growth. Mainstream media has been losing credibility at a staggering rate, and Americans are starting to look elsewhere for the truth about what's really going on. Do you think that anyone in mainstream corporate news would actually tell you that we're facing a horrific derivative bubble that could destroy the entire United States, for example? Are they going to tell that story, or are they going to be more concerned about what their Wall Street pals are saying? Good example, do you think anybody in the mainstream or corporate media would actually tell you the truth about the voracious greed of Goldman Sachs? Do you think they want to talk about the fact that DuPont's deadly toxins can be found in the bloodstream of almost every living creature on Earth because DuPont pays their bills? Wall Street pays their bills just like the drug company. The corporate media can't handle complex stories anymore. They don't understand the link between crony capitalism and the revolving door between the FDA and the drug industry. So they wouldn't even talk about that if they were allowed to. They aren't capable of connecting to the dots that we have to connect in trials every day, for example. They simply don't understand it, or they don't want to take the time to understand it because it's not big dollars for them. But the media is only one side of the story here. Big Pharma knows that if they want to continue manipulating the public, we have to start with our elected officials in Washington, D.C. According to Open Secrets, Big Pharma spent more than $58 million on politicians in 2016, the most amount they've ever spent on direct contributions in the last quarter century. Why? Because big drug companies, want politicians to do what they order them to do. And when it comes to lobbying, few industries spend more than Big Pharma. Last year, the industry spent a staggering $244 million to influence our elected leaders in Washington, D.C. And it looks like things are about to get much, much worse. You see, Big Pharma understands that the ridiculous price markups, their price gouging, that it draws negative attention from the American public. And no matter how much they spend on advertising or buying our politicians, which they do every single day, they can't keep public anger down. So according to a new report by ProPublica, drug companies are offering huge money to scientists, people I call biostitutes. They're professors or they're academic, willing to author studies showing that these drug markups, this price gouging is necessary and that it's good for Americans. That's really the story that they're going to get these biostitutes to tell all over the country. Big Pharma has managed to manipulate our media, they've manipulated our politicians, and now they want to corrupt the scientific community. But what we're going to see after we see this story created that price gouging is just fine, we're going to see the stories emerge in universities, and then corporate media is going to take those stories and they're going to plaster it all over the air, trying to convince you that 6,000%, 10,000%, 15,000% markup for a drug is just okay with the American public. And that's going to be what they do in the next 6 months. These are stories we follow on America's Lawyer. We want you to follow us on America's Lawyer, and we'll tell you a story like this every week.